So what are your, as you get ready and get prepared for the season, big off season for you, launched your company, getting married, won the MVP, what can we expect from you going forward? I mean, that's a lot to do all in 1 year. It's incredible, but you're capable of a lot. I know it because of your skill and your brain, but what can we look forward from Joel Embiid?
I just want to win a championship. Whatever it takes. I don't know where that's going to be, whether it's in Philly or, anywhere else. I just want to have a chance to accomplish that. I want to see what it feels like to win that first one, and then you can think about, the next one. It's not easy, but, it takes more than, 1, 2, 3 years. You gotta have, good people around you, and, like myself, every single day I work hard to, be at that level.
While most would say this is a fairly standard response, every player in the NBA wants to win a championship. It's why you play the game after all. And it's even more so the case for superstars in the league who haven't won a championship, because the NBA's best, what do they care about most? Well, aside from the money, of course, they care about their legacy. They don't want to be one of those all-time greats that was never able to win a chip, like Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing. So while yes, it shouldn't be a surprise that when Joel Embiid is asked what we can expect to see from you, what do you want most, and he says he wants to win a championship. Whether it's in Philly or somewhere else, he just wants that title. But it's also sending a direct message to the organization that the pressure is now on for you to put together the right pieces around me to win a title. Otherwise, I'm out of here. And you really can't blame him for this. He's one of the best players in the league, a top 5 player in the NBA hands down, just won the MVP. He's in the peak of his prime at age 29. He's giving everything to that franchise that he can, and yet the Sixers have continued to come up short in the playoffs even when they look like the best team in the Eastern Conference, but they've never made it past the second round. Joel Embiid, 7 seasons playing with the Sixers, since he didn't play in the first 2 seasons after being drafted, has never made it to a conference finals. They've made the playoffs every year since 2018, but have always fallen short. So now the question is, how serious is it for the Sixers to potentially lose Joel Embiid? How long do they have before Embiid wants out? And what can they do to keep him there and to get the team over the hump in winning a title, or at least getting past the second round anyway? If you're new to the channel and you like this type of content, then be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video, and in return I'll be providing more NBA content like this. Now, there is no question that this past postseason for the Sixers was a big disappointment. They finished 3rd in the Eastern Conference. For the most part, their guys were healthy going into the postseason. They ran through the Brooklyn Nets, sweeping them in the first round. And then when they met up with the Boston Celtics, even despite not being the favorites to win that series, they managed to take a 3-2 series lead, winning Game 5 in Boston, going back home to play Game 6 in Philly. All of the momentum on their side. The Celtics knew they blew it by getting worked in Game 5 on their home court. And what did? They came back to Philadelphia and wet the bed. Harden had a horrible game where he went 4 for 16 from the field, 0 for 6 from 3, and with the way they walked off the court in that Game 6 loss, you knew this series was over. They weren't going to be coming back and winning in the Garden in Game 7, and in that Game 7, they almost looked like they didn't want to be there. Both Harden and Embiid played horribly. Like, as much as we like to give Embiid a pass sometimes, he was not good in that game. His body language, his demeanor, his lack of effort said it all, and the Sixers lost in embarrassing fashion, blowing yet another series lead and failing to get past the second round. Now, the biggest wrench that is being thrown into this whole offseason is the sudden shift in James Harden in demanding a trade. Say what you will about Harden, yes, he's not the same player he used to be. He doesn't play defense. He gets tunnel vision and slows down the overall flow on offense with his heavy isolation style of basketball. Selfish player, locker room killer, whatever. Yeah, all of these things are true, but he's still the second best player on the Sixers, and losing him will be a big loss for that team. And for Embiid, you're looking around. Harden wants out. You're probably not going to get that great of a package for him in return because his overall trade value isn't that high at this stage in his career. And the fact that Harden now has a history where he just demands trades whenever he grows unhappy, teams are going to be unwilling to take on a player who might just leave after 1 season. Then you have Tobias Harris. He's not getting any better. He's going to be 32 this season, going on an expiring contract. They've got some older veterans who are starting to decline, like PJ Tucker, who they signed to a 3-year deal and has a player option on the last year of his deal. And while they have some young players who are promising, Tyrese Maxey obviously being the biggest one, but they haven't offered him an extension yet. which was strategic to see how the offseason goes and also not putting a large cap hold on their books for the following season. Maxey is going to get his due. He's going to get a big payday based on his production and value. They retained Paul Reed, restricted free agent, which I think was great. I like Reed's game. They added Mo Bamba on a min deal, which I think is a solid pickup for them on a low-risk one-year contract for a backup 5. They added some hustle and defense with Patrick Beverley, but they also lost some of their shooting with George Niang signing with the Cavs. But you look around at this roster, especially if they lose Harden, you think, is this really a title contending team? Yes, they're still going to be a good team, and I personally think they upgraded with the hiring of Nick Nurse over Doc Rivers. They're still going to be one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, but is this really a title contending team that they have put around Joel Embiid? Embiid is going to turn 30 this upcoming season. He's playing at an elite level. He's still going to be one of the greatest players in the league, but for how much longer? He knows his window to win now is getting smaller with every passing season. And every season, every offseason, it seems there is always something between the Ben Simmons saga and him not wanting to play, not prioritizing re-signing Jimmy Butler after they just traded for him, prioritizing Tobias Harris over him. That was a mistake. And even Embiid himself said in the past he wishes they would have kept Jimmy. Then more recently, they make a big splash of a trade for James Harden, but giving up a fair amount in order to get him. And now Harden wants out. The Daryl Morey-James Harden marriage has finally come to an end. For Joel Embiid, he has to be thinking, I'm one of the most dominant players in the league, arguably a top 3 player in the NBA after Jokic and Giannis, the reigning MVP, even though yes, most would agree that that probably should have gone to Nikola Jokic. But anyway, you think, what are we doing here, guys? We need to be going all in. You're talking about a once-in-a-generation type player that you have on your roster. You tanked and were bad for so many years and trusting the process. You missed on a lot of those draft picks, but you hit on one of the biggest gems and generational talents in Joel Embiid. This is when you do everything possible to win now. You really have to hit on all of your transactions from here on out, whether it be through free agency signings, trades, draft picks. You can't afford any missteps with Joel Embiid about to be 30, a superstar talent, and a superstar talent who is now making statements like the one you heard at the top of this video, implying if he can't win a championship, then he's going to look elsewhere, as that is his ultimate goal. Hell, even Damian Lillard until this offseason never wavered when talking about his goal of wanting to win a championship, but winning it in Portland. And he's been with that team for 11 seasons. Embiid is setting it straight now. My goal is to win a championship. I'm prioritizing that over anything else, including my loyalty to the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, of course, Embiid is under contract through 2027, where he has a player option in the final year of his deal, so it's not like he can just leave the team. He's not going to be a free agent anytime soon. The soonest he can be a free agent is in 2026, that offseason anyway, when he's 32. But we know that doesn't stop superstars these days from pushing their way out. Players have so much power these days in the NBA that being under contract really doesn't mean much of anything when you're one of the best players in the NBA. You can force your way out if you really want to, like we have seen recently from Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and now Damian Lillard and James Harden, even though they haven't been moved yet at the time of this recording. So for the Sixers, especially now that they're dealing with Harden and his trade demands, they cannot get too comfortable thinking, well, there's no way we would lose Joel Embiid. Homegrown player that they drafted, he's loyal to the city and the fans. As long as we have Embiid, we're a title team that can attract free agents simply because of his presence. Not so fast, especially now that Embiid has been vocal for the first time about where his priorities lie. Championship over everything. Now, do I think Embiid is going to demand a trade soon, as in this offseason or at least some point in the upcoming season? No, I don't. But for me, I do think this is the Sixers' last opportunity in this upcoming season to make strides in the right direction before Embiid asks out next offseason. If they stay flat from where they were last season or even regress as a team, no doubt in my mind, Joel will demand a trade. Not when you're a superstar talent in your 30s without any deep playoff success. He's not going to stand for it. Really anything less than a conference finals appearance, and even that might not be enough. Embiid will look to play elsewhere in the 24-25 season to go where he has a legitimate chance at winning a title. Where would that be? It's hard to say given the ever-changing landscape of the NBA, but it won't be Philly. I can tell you that much. I'm curious to know where you would like to see Joel Embiid play for if it's not in Philadelphia for his best chance of winning a title. Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.